Good afternoon. My name is Colin Calamiris, and today I'm going to be speaking about animals kept in captivity compared to animals kept in their natural environment. So just to get a good perspective of what we're talking about here, referring to animals kept in zoos. So it's very common that a lot of people think animals are happy in zoos and really can't tell the difference between their natural environment and living in captivity after a certain amount of time, maybe after a couple years, which simply just isn't true. And other people hate seeing animals in captivity and understand animal stress signals, which is kind of the position that I'm taking here. When you really know what you're looking for, it's definitely a different story when you go to a zoo and see these animals in captivity. Personally, I do have a love-hate relationship with zoos. I used to go to them all the time when I was a kid. Me and my mom would go walk around Brookfield Zoo outside of Chicago and see all the animals that I would never have a chance to see unless I traveled to different parts of the world, which I didn't have the opportunity to do. So that was, I definitely see why people, still to this day enjoy going to see animals and going to zoos. But as I've grown older and matured, I've researched animal captivity and I've come to understand the animal's perspective, which I think is the most important perspective when we're talking about an animal being kept in captivity. So right now there are over 800,000 documented animals in captivity. This includes zoos and aquariums. So in these 800,000 animals, there are 6,000 species, and only 1,000 of those are endangered. And so really when we're thinking about necessity and animals needing medical attention and needing to, be in captivity in order to continue living, that's really only a thing for a small percentage of these animals. It is my opinion that it should be illegal to hold animals who are not under imminent threat of endangerment in captivity. It is not captivity is not comparable to their natural environment. However, I am in favor of moving animals who are at a high risk of endangerment into facilities that promote reproduction, safety, and the sense of their natural habitat in both space and as well as just the material that they put inside of that environment. Most of my information here comes from Dr. Shulu. They work with Animals Australia. Additionally, Madison Coleman, Philip Isakov, Lily Velez, and Animal Equality. So first here I want to examine the reason why animals should not be held in captivity. Most animals in captivity show signs of depression and anxiety, also known as zoochosis. So just as humans do, animals experience mental anguish and happiness. When they are put in captivity, they are mentally experiencing it similarly to how we would if we were put in captivity. Most animals are naturally social, just as humans are. So most animals in captivity are limited to one or two other animals in the same species who speak the same language and everything. In nature, these animals often live with dozens, sometimes even hundreds of other animals of the same species, so they really don't get that anymore. And this information here comes from Robert Brault. He's an author with Animal Australia. And so while captivity causes stress, mistreatment is another even more frequent factor. Animals in captivity are not living in an environment that represents their natural environment. So a couple examples here. Tigers and lions live in a space that is 18,000 times smaller than their natural environment. Wild orcas swim over 100 miles a day and dive 850 feet in in the biggest tanks that we have that they're held captive in. They can only swim 220 feet one way and 50 feet down. So that is not even comparable to 100 miles and 850 feet. Monkeys spend 89% of their lives in high density vegetation, where I have never seen in a zoo, and it is not reported in many, if any, zoos in the US. Water animals, such as orcas, that perform for humans are kept in small pools with no light when they're not entertaining. So, really, if humans aren't seeing them, they're kept in even worse conditions than what you might think. And the noise is another big thing. The noise in a zoo is extremely different than in nature. Once a zoo closes, it goes quiet, but construction, fireworks, things like that, kids screaming are not things that animals would hear in nature, therefore they stress them out. So lastly here, the last point that I want to make is another thing that animals really deal with is they're often mistreated in captivity by humans directly. There are over 2,800 zoos in the world, 75% of which have been discovered to facilitate human abuse of animals. 2019 worldwide study found that 75% of zoos and aquariums offered at least one type of animal visitor interaction experience that went against the guidelines established by the World Associations of Zoos and Aquariums, also known as WAZA. So that is, that's three-quarters of animals that we have in captivity who are, dealing with things that's a group of scientists have said is not natural and not something that shouldn't happen. Lastly, most animals in captivity are given antidepressants and tranquilizers. These are not natural and would never be or consensually be part of an animal's, life or diet in nature. So, in conclusion, animals who are not under imminent threat of endangerment should not be held in captivity, and it does not represent their natural environment as much as it might seem that it does, or someone might tell you that it does. Please, if you are interested, I am putting out a petition to send out to state legislation, just to sort of explain some of these statistics and kind of limit the animals that we do bring into captivity. Like I previously said, it is only those who are under high imminent threat of endangerment that really need to be held captive so that we can promote reproduction in them in a safe environment. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.